It's been less than a week since the Oilers hit the jackpot, and everything has changed. Kevin Lowe has been stripped of his hockey-related powers and moved to the business side of Oilers Entertainment Group. Craig McTavish is no longer the general manager. He's been returned to his vice president role. Ironically, he found out via phone call while in Switzerland, much like the one Ralph Kruger received 2 years earlier when he was fired by McTavish. McTavish and his protege Todd Nelson won't be coaching the Oilers either. The Oilers will bring in their most bona fide coach in years, a former President's Trophy winner, to fill that role. The world knows Connor McDavid. Tremendous skill, unstoppable speed, 2.5 points per game, CHL Player of the Year, World Junior Gold. He will reshape this team on the ice, but there are 3 new men that will be tasked with surrounding the superstar with talent and coaching a team filled with sudden hope after 9 jaded years. The highest ranking of this trio, and theoretically the entire organization, is Bob Nicholson, longtime head of Hockey Canada, who had been named CEO of OEG. He has some say in hockey operations, but owner Daryl Cates describes him in a quote to the Edmonton Journal as a good consensus builder, something the team desperately needs after years of miscommunication and turmoil. The new CEO will put more room between the on-ice product and Cates, which should lead to more stability and hopefully some better decisions. Nicholson's main task is to synergize the hockey side and business side of the Oilers in a way that Lowe failed to achieve. Taking both McTavish and Lowe's titles is former Bruins general manager Peter Chiarelli, a guy the Oilers wanted so badly they gave up a 2017 second-round pick to get him the second he was fired. Chiarelli built the 2011 Cup champion Bruins and has a pretty strong record as a talent evaluator. His first offseason with Boston, 2006, he drafted Phil Kessel, Milan Lucic, and Brad Marchand, traded for Tuukka Rask, and signed free agents Mark Savard and Zdeno Chara. Kessel was the only one of those players not on the Cup team, and he had been flipped to Toronto for picks that would become Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton. Unbeknownst to anyone yet, he just had a terrific 2014 draft, getting future superstar David Pastrnak in the first round and solid NHLers Ryan Donato, Danton Heinen, and Anders Bjork in the second, fourth, and fifth rounds.
2-on-2, the trailer, Krug back to Donato, he scores!
Now he did get fired from Boston for a reason. First, he gave up Seguin in a trade for Louis Eriksson, which blew up in his face almost immediately. Then he shipped off Johnny Boychuk for 2 seconds, only for the D-man to blossom on Long Island while the Bruins missed the playoffs. But surely he's learned from all of this and will never trade a top 2 pick from the 2010 draft for an underwhelming return ever again. Behind the bench is Todd McLellan, as mentioned earlier, a President's Trophy winner from his time with the Sharks. While his teams historically crumbled in the playoffs, no one has ever accused McLellan of being a bad coach, and he missed the playoffs for the first time just last season, with a roster in a bit of a transition. Young players a little too raw, and old players a little too old to carry the team.
Hockey, Dad. Hockey 24/7, man. I'm tired of this. I don't know what to do no more, man.
Gary, you wimp.
Todd McLellan is a lousy marriage counselor, but he's a great hockey coach. Brilliant.
He has the best track record of any coach behind the Oilers bench since Glenn Sather made his short return in 1993. These 3 guys are a complete 180 from the bumbling assortment of former Oilers, rookie coaches, and Steve this team has shuffled through over the past 9 years. This team looks professional. The Oilers know they aren't going to get another shot like this, another player like this. They have to make it count. Chiarelli's first personnel decision is a no-brainer.
The Edmonton Oilers would like to select with their first pick from the Erie Otters, Connor McDavid.
But the Oilers have another pick on day 1 from their David Perron trade, and thanks to the Penguins' playoff implosion, it comes pretty early at 16. Chiarelli should be well acquainted with the players available in this range, as his former team was set to pick 14th, though they've since acquired picks 13 and 15. Matthew Barzal is another lightning-fast playmaking center, there's the deadly scorer Kyle Connor, and Thomas Chabot has the makings of a strong offensive defenseman. But the Oilers need help now. They have to support McDavid with talent now. They've packaged the 16th and 33rd overall picks to get that help. Dougie Hamilton just went to Calgary for a first and 2 seconds. He's a 22-year-old top-pairing defenseman. The Oilers aren't going to get a player of quite that caliber, but they're still paying big, so the guy they're getting should be an instant game changer. To the Oilers, a 2012 top 5 pick, Griffin Reinhart. And with the 16th pick, the Islanders take Matthew Barzal. To say it's an underwhelming addition would be too kind. After being chosen 4th overall by the Isles, Reinhart has struggled to develop beyond his strong draft-eligible season, seeing his point total drop in 2013 and then again in 2014, all while serving as the captain of the Edmonton Oil Kings. He had a terrific Memorial Cup run in 2014, but followed that up with a difficult season in the AHL with Bridgeport. Luckily, Jim Matheson of the Edmonton Journal has the rationale for this trade recorded. 1. Bob Green, former general manager of the Oil Kings, is now head of player development for the Oilers. 2. The Oilers just remodeled their scouting staff, firing the heads of amateur and pro scouting along with 4 other members of the department, leaving a relatively fractured group for the new management team to rely on ahead of the draft. This group would be very familiar with Reinhart, a guy who the Oilers scouted extensively before eventually settling on Neil Yakupov with their top pick in 2012. This begs the question, have they seen Reinhart much since? 3. Peter Chiarelli has been enthralled with Reinhart since the Big D-Man's Memorial Cup performance. Once again, have you seen him play since then? We'll see how it plays out, but a tweener defenseman who got benched by the Isles in the playoffs is not likely the immediate help implied by his price tag. But this is just move number 1. There's still plenty of time to round out this roster, and the Oilers have shown they aren't afraid to burn their draft picks to do so. Peter Chiarelli doesn't make another selection until late in the 4th round, opting again to trade picks, this time to fix the goaltending. In exchange for a 2nd, 3rd, and a pick swap in the 7th, the Oilers bring in Rangers backup / 1B goalie Cam Talbot. It's been a long road for Talbot, who was already 20 when he began his freshman season at Alabama Huntsville, but he improved every year and led a not great Chargers team to a conference championship with his terrific play in net, drawing the attention of the Rangers. Talbot continued to improve in the AHL, putting up better and better numbers before establishing himself with the big club in 2013-14. His numbers through 2 seasons with the Blue Shirts have been outstanding, and he even challenged Lundqvist at times for starts. The Rangers only had him under contract for 1 more year at $1.45 million, a massive bargain, but a player they didn't really need behind their Hall of Fame starter. This deal has the makings of a slam dunk acquisition for the Oilers. Talbot could be a world beater and was the best goalie available amongst a plethora of backups. The Oilers should have their guy going forward, or at least someone who can replace Victor Faust, who sprinted onto the first flight back to Europe after his disastrous 2015 season to join CSKA Moscow. Less notable is their shuffling of depth defensemen. Out goes Martin Marincin, in comes Eric Gryba, swapping unproven youth for known commodity grit. Chiarelli keeps the ball rolling the day before free agency opens, sending Boyd Gorton back to Arizona for winger Lauri Korpikoski. Gorton had seen his already limited offensive skill set evaporate over the past season, and while the defensive impacts are still there, the addition of McDavid and pending reemergence of Draisaitl make Gorton a $3 million 4th liner. Korpikoski is younger, a bit cheaper, and clearly worse. While he has a reputation as a two-way player, Korpikoski's on-ice impacts tell a far different story. While he has a great skill set, he's been unable to translate that into production or any semblance of play driving in 3 seasons. He is just a guy. I hope you didn't think the Oilers were going to sit out during the free agent season. They immediately land one of the biggest fish, signing defenseman Andrej Sekera for a $5.5 million per season, 6-year contract. It's a steep price, but a good player. Sekera blossomed during his first year in Carolina with 11 goals and 44 points. This past season, the production wasn't there, but his underlying numbers and aptitude for blocking and taking shots were still top-notch. He very importantly takes a lot of pressure off Justin Schultz. But something strange, though? He's another lefty. Darnell Nurse, Oscar Klefbom, Sekera, Reinhart, Nikita Nikitin, and Andrew Ference are all lefties. The only NHL-caliber righties are Schultz, Mark Fane, and Eric Gryba. Something has to give here. Also on day one, the Oilers give 1.8 times 3 to new fourth-line center Mark Letestu. Letestu, to borrow a term from the NBA, is a 3-and-D guy. He can't drive much offense on his own, but he's a very good defensive forward with a strong shot, getting a lot of his goals as a trigger man on the power play. Finally, to end his first summer with the team, Chiarelli trades Vermont-bound Liam Coughlin for Anders Nilsson, a goalie to team with prospect Laurent Brossoit in Bakersfield for the Oilers' new AHL affiliate, the Condors. He gives the Oilers another layer of insurance as another goalie capable of making NHL starts. Will he be good in those starts? His track record says no. The team is rebuilt completely. The roster looks good, and not just Oilers good. They're not a cup contender yet, but there's a realistic situation where they can at least sniff the playoffs. Not surprisingly, nobody trusts them, and for good reason. The most generous preseason ranking I could find was number 22 from the Boston-based Nesson. Most everyone cites the defense and goaltending as their top concerns, with little faith in Cam Talbot as a top-flight starter. There is a painful reality the Oilers have to address before the season starts. Andrew Ference isn't good anymore. His age and injuries have caught up to him, and he will very likely find himself a healthy scratch at times this season. Due to this situation and the overall new mentality of the whole franchise, McLellan and Chiarelli have decided to remove the C from his jersey, as put by CBS Sports' Chris Peters. Ference will serve as an A, along with Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Jordan Eberle. It's obvious who the Oilers hope their next C will be. Preseason brings with it another surprise, as Anders Nilsson steals the show and Ben Scrivens' job. Scrivens, who had such a tremendous start to his Oilers tenure and served as the starter just last season, passes through waivers unclaimed and will report to Bakersfield. He's not the only face absent from the opening night roster. Draisaitl and Nurse join Scrivens in Bakersfield, while Ference predictably watches from the press box. This team has about 500 NHL-ish defensemen. Reinhart and Gryba just happen to win the last two slots. The forwards are a little weird, with enforcer Luke Gazdic and World Junior standout and solid KHLer Anton Slepyshev slotting into depth roles. I am actually going to give the Oilers some credit, or at least some understanding, for not having Dry on this roster. Last year was such a catastrophe for the highly touted German. If the Oilers don't think he's ready to play in the top 6, there's no point in playing him as a depth guy. Having the experience in the AHL of playing against men and not being painfully overmatched will be good for him. Draisaitl's path so far has been slaughtering in German juniors, slaughtering in the CHL, but then struggling in the NHL. He needs that extra stepping stone that the AHL can provide. Much of the same goes for Nurse, who is also trying to make the leap from juniors after a disappointing Oilers debut in 2015. This is good management. That can't be right. The Oilers take the lead late in the first on opening night on a connection from Alex Pietrangelo and Alex Steen, when the former whips a clearing attempt into the latter and the puck slips right underneath Blues goalie Brian Elliott. Nuge gets credit for the goal, although I am not sure he touched the puck at all. Pietrangelo makes up for it in the second with a beautiful stretch pass to spraying Vladimir Tarasenko, who does his thing. The Oilers go puck chasing in the third, and Robbie Fabry fires home the eventual game winner, and Troy Brouwer ices the game with an empty netter. Well, the Oilers' offense was largely neutered against St. Louis, but the Blues are a Ken Hitchcock team. So what are you going to do? Talbot was good. That's nice. Game 2 is much of the same. The only time the puck crosses the Nashville goal line is on a Nuge kick, which gets called back. Andrew Ference draws back in and makes a horrific turnover on Nashville's second goal. Back up into the press box he goes. McDavid's first goal comes in Game 3. He looks great so far. His speed is as otherworldly as it looked in juniors. Anders Nilsson plays a tremendous game behind the Oilers too, making 48 saves as the Oilers lose 4-2. Hitchcock's Blues strike again, the Oilers' dismal start continues, but there is light. McDavid's first multi-goal game breaks the streak, beating the Flames in the Saddledome. The Oilers take their next 2 on back-to-back great performances by Nilsson and Talbot. Then 3 losses that bring some changes in personnel. Neither Reinhart or Ferentz have been able to hold down the 6th defenseman slot, so up comes Brandon Davidson from Bakersfield, who quickly locks himself into the vacated role. Forward Iro Pekarainen comes with him to shore up the depth. Then an injury to Schultz brings up Nurse, who promptly blasts home his first career goal. In an effort to end the skid, the Oilers call up one last player. Leon Draisaitl is back, and he's better than ever. Leon scores twice in his re-debut, reaching his total from last season, and the Oilers beat reigning MVP Carey Price and the red-hot Canadiens. Edmonton drops their next game against Calgary, and they fall behind the Flyers during the first game of November. Deep in the second, McDavid drives to the Flyers' net, but catches an edge on the bad late-period ice. No, Connor, please. The Oilers win the battle, beating the Flyers, but they lose the war. McDavid will be out for months with a broken collarbone. Can't this team have anything good happen to them? The Oilers drop 9 of their next 12 games, sinking their record to 8-15-2. They don't deserve this. They really aren't that bad. They're a pretty meh possession team, but they aren't getting any luck. When they are scoring, they can't get a save. When their goaltending is great, they get goalied by the opposition. After a great start to the season, Talbot is starting to lose the net to Nilsson thanks to a string of bad starts. Andrew Ferentz picked up an injury in a late November loss to Detroit, his first time back in the lineup in a month. He'll need hip surgery, and his career is over as he heads into an LTIR retirement. He'll reveal in 2016 to Jim Matheson of the Edmonton Sun that he was never fully healthy during his time with the Oilers. His hip was destroyed for the entire run. It's sad to see the former captain go, but it was time. It's been time for a while. In brighter news, Draisaitl wasn't just a flash in the pan. Though he's cooled off quite a bit since moving from wing to center in the wake of McDavid's injury, he still has 8 goals and 18 points through 15 games. In early December, the Oilers finally get the bounces. On the back of some terrific play from Nilsson and to a lesser extent Talbot, the Oilers win 6 straight. Normally, this is where I would say, oh, they beat the Coyotes and Leafs and Blue Jackets, so who cares? But not this time. 2 wins against the Bruins, they're a bubble team. The Sabres aren't awful by any means, and the Stars, Sharks, and Rangers are all very good. This is the most real winning streak the Oilers have had in years. They've almost dug themselves out of their hole. Now they can get Stop losing!
Steals, scores!
The Oilers win just 1 of their next 8 games, plopping them at .500 for the month of December. A month that, need I remind you, the Oilers started 6-0. Late in December, the Oilers swap a guy that they aren't using for a guy Montreal isn't using, trading Ben Scrivens for Zach Kassian. It's a good move for both teams. Scrivens had become a redundancy for the Oilers and an expensive one at that, carrying a $2.3 million cap hit. But it's a strange time to trade him as Nilsson combusted after the 6-game winning streak with an .857 save percentage in his next 4 appearances. Kassian is fresh off clearing waivers and the Canadiens do not want him, telling him not to report to their AHL affiliate in St. John's. The rugged forward is young and capable of playing in the NHL, but undisciplined with a long rap sheet of on and off the ice issues. Kassian should be able to contribute if the Oilers can keep him in line. January really isn't much different from December, except now Talbot is good and Nilsson is bad. Which is better, I guess. Just another blah sub-500 run for the team with only 1 of their 4 wins in the month coming in regulation. But February 2nd, Connor's back. The Oilers bulldoze the Blue Jackets in McDavid's return game 5-1, then dust the Senators 2 days later 7-2. Finally, it's all come together. This team is probably too far out of it for this season, but they're here. McDavid, Draisaitl, Nurse, and Klefbom have meshed perfectly with Hall, Eberle, and Nuge. The core is established, and if McDavid hadn't missed all that time, who knows where they would be in the standings. They immediately lose 5-1 to the Canadiens and 8-1 to the Islanders. Talbot is awful against the Canadiens, then Nilsson is awful against the Isles, gets pulled, and then Talbot is awful some more. Blame rarely rests solely on the goalie in hockey, but some of these, please, somebody, make a save. They can't finish either, with guys who should be scorers, Purcell, Yakupov, and Hall all shooting below 10%, with Yakupov's 5.6 at this point in the season being especially horrible. Yakupov's knack for scoring has buoyed some fairly horrific 5-on-5 impacts. Now that the scoring is dried up, he no longer looks like just a disappointment. He looks bad. Following the Islanders game, the Oilers as a team have scored 6 fewer goals than expected and allowed 13.5 more than expected. That's not a recipe for winning, especially for a team that has slightly below average possession numbers. Okay, fine. This team definitely has problems that need to be addressed, but they at least feel somewhat surmountable. The Oilers bumble toward the trade deadline, winning just one of their next 9, highlighted only by McDavid's 5-point night against the Leafs and calling up Laurent Brossoit out of desperation, where he plays a great game in his second career loss. On February 27th, the Oilers start selling pieces off. With Brossoit seemingly a ready backup, Nilsson is the first to go, headed to St. Louis for a 5th and struggling goalie prospect Nicholas Lundstrom. In a painful move, Justin Schultz is next on the chopping block, sent to the Penguins for just a 3rd-round pick. He's been injured for a big chunk of the season and struggled when he has been in the lineup. His production has fallen off a cliff, and while he can still generate some chances, he's been one of the NHL's very worst defenders since he entered the league. He's 25, and the Oilers have seen enough. He could very well bottom out with the Pens, making a 3rd look like a steal, even if it's disappointing to look at now. Finally, Teddy Purcell, a pending free agent unlikely to re-sign, nets another 3rd, this time from Florida. The Oilers win their game post-sell-off, then, in a strange turn of events, add a player, bringing in big winger Patrick Maroon from the Ducks in exchange for struggling defense prospect Martin Gernat and a 4th-round pick. Maroon isn't a world beater, but he's a solid middle 6 winger the Oilers are getting for relatively cheap at $1.5 million for 2 years after this. He's having a bad year, so it's a bit of a gamble, but Maroon is a guy that has the potential to contribute. The Oilers win 3 in a row around the trade deadline, capped off by Maroon's debut and first goal with the team against the Flyers.
Off the boards, Maroon scores. Patrick Maroon, welcome to the Edmonton Oilers.
The Big Rig catches on quickly with the Oilers, picking up 2 assists in a fight in his second game, a loss to Columbus, and scoring another goal while putting 6 shots on net in a win against the Jets. Aside from Maroon and his new line mate Connor McDavid, the demoralized Oilers look the part of a team miles out of the playoff picture. 5-8-1 through their last 14 games is a slightly worse pace than they've been at all year. Pouliot is done for the year. Nuge comes back for the final 9 games after yet another long injury absence, scoring 4 goals. Hall and Letestu lead the non-McDavid or Maroon squad with 8 points each, while no one else musters over a half point per game. Talbot isn't great, and Brossoit is in over his head even as just the backup. Reinhart and Nikitin draw back into the lineup to fully establish that they aren't very good and play their final NHL regular season games. The Oilers are a team just trying to get to next season so they can try again. At least, unlike in years past, it feels like the problems with this team are fixable with good moves, good health, and praying for Cam Talbot's continued improvement, because he's locked in at $4.16 million for the next 3 years, a contract he signed in the midst of a January hot streak that has since fizzled. Due to his injury limiting him to just 45 games and 48 points, McDavid loses out on the Calder Trophy as the league's top rookie, finishing behind KHL import and winner Artemi Panarin and the emergent defenseman from Union College, Shane Gostisbehere. The Oilers, despite finishing with their best record since the shortened 2013 season, still finished second to last in the league's standings, topping only the post-Kessel trade Maple Leafs. For the first time in a while, the lottery balls aren't kind to Edmonton, dropping them down to the 4th pick and out of the running for the consensus number 1 Austin Matthews or the consensus number 2 Patrick Laine. There's even a consensus number 3, Jesse Puljujärvi, that is seen as a tier above the rest of the 2016 draft prospects. The Oilers are likely to end up with one of the second-tier guys, either a forward like Matthew Tkachuk, Clayton Keller, or Pierre-Luc Dubois, or a defenseman in Jacob Chychrun or Mikhail Sergachev. You can't say the Oilers don't have a wealth of options to go with their wealth of college free agent signings, headlined by NCAA tournament MVP Drake Caggiula. The draft starts off as expected. Austin Matthews to the Leafs, Patrick Laine to the Jets. Then Columbus shocks everyone, drafting Pierre-Luc Dubois with the 3rd pick. The rationale is that the Blue Jackets need a center, something that Puljujärvi is not, but neither is Dubois. The Blue Jackets plan to switch the Quebecois forward's position from left wing to center. Well, good luck with that. The Oilers are dancing in the streets. Puljujärvi should never have been available. Forget those other guys. Chiarelli and company are up on the stage almost instantaneously with their pick.
And with the 4th selection in the 2016 entry draft from Karpat in Finland, Jesse Puljujärvi.
As put by Copper and Blues Benjamin Massey, even when we lose the lottery, we win the lottery. What a great start to the offseason. All the Oilers have to do is add some pieces around the edges and they should be set, just as long as they don't do anything stupid. Why is that alarm going off?
The Devils traded Adam Larsson to the Edmonton Oilers. That's very good news for Edmonton. They need a defense. In exchange for Taylor Hall.
It's a bad trade. There's no way around it. Player for player, it's a bad trade. I mean, I know that they had a need to fill, and they had to fill that need. But I think you could have got more for Taylor Hall.
The Edmonton Oilers have dealt the former #1 overall pick to the Devils for Adam Larsson in a deal that our very own Nicholas Goss says will be one of the worst in NHL history.
I would have thought they would get at least a second-round draft choice along with Adam Larsson, and the second-round pick could have been given to Boston next year for Peter Chiarelli.
Now, I saw some people on Twitter trying to defend this, going, well, the Oilers get something they need. And absolutely, Adam Larsson is going to be a big help for the Oilers on the back end. But for Taylor Hall?
And we've pounded the pavement. And this is the price that you have to pay.
At least they added on defense. Well, free agency can't go worse. Buying out Lauri Korpikoski? That's good with me. Jonas Gustafsson as a backup goalie? Sure, that's fine. Wait, Peter, that's a lot of money to give to Milan Lucic. That's a lot of term to give to Milan Lucic. Those are hard miles on that guy. I know he's only 28, but Connor is only 19. You really want a 34-year-old Lucic making $6 million when McDavid is in the prime of his career? Well, Lucic absolutely makes you better for next season. But at what cost? The Oilers are quiet for the rest of the offseason, not losing or gaining much in terms of impactful players at the NHL level, with the most exciting signing coming in the form of Northeastern's Matt Benning. It's into the preseason when the Oilers make 2 more big moves. First, they give up on Yakupov and his $2.5 million cap hit, sending him to the Blues for a 3rd-round pick and former 4th-round pick Zach Pachiro. A lot less than the Oilers gave up getting Griffin Reinhart. Weird. It was time for Yak to head somewhere else regardless, with his production stagnating completely. With their newfound money, the Oilers signed leftover UFA defenseman Chris Russell for a 1-year deal at $3.1 million. Russell is a great puck mover and blocks a lot of shots, not that that's always a sign of good defensive play. He's been a bit overtasked in a top pairing role with the Flames, but given that he can play as offside, pairing him with Sekera on the second pairing should be a slot that he's effective in. They now have genuinely the most acceptable D unit this team has had in 10 years. The Oilers continue into opening night at the sparkling new Rogers Place to do battle with the hated Flames and their crop of young stars, headlined by Johnny Gaudreau, and they do so with a new captain. To no one's surprise, Connor McDavid will take the C, becoming the youngest captain in NHL history, flanked by alternates Jordan Eberle, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and the newcomer Milan Lucic. From Derek Van Dyst of NHL.com's write-up, "No, it doesn't feel overwhelming at all. I just feel normal about it," McDavid said. "I'm very humbled to wear it and excited about it, but having the support of the teammates and all that, that's the main thing. And that's what makes it so much easier." Edmonton jumps out to a 3-1 lead in the first, but squanders it midway through the second, giving up shorthanded goals on consecutive power plays. McDavid takes back the lead with 2 goals of his own, with his penalty shot goal serving as the eventual game winner in the Oilers' 7-4 victory. You can't say the Oilers weren't sloppy in this game. They napped through most of the second period, but they were able to overcome it. Every line, Lucic, McDavid, Eberle, Maroon, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi, Pouliot, Nugent-Hopkins, Kassian, and Pitlick, Letestu, Slepyshev each chipped in offensively. The defense weathered losing Brandon Davidson early, surviving with only 5D, Clefbaum Larsson, Sekera Russell, and Nurse rotating in. Talbot was perfectly good behind them. The pieces are in place. Game 2 in the Saddledome, the Oilers beat the Flames again, with Connor and Leon picking up 3 points each.
Captain with a pass, that deflects, loose, backhand, stopped, rebound, kicked in, and it's a goal.
Next is a pretty embarrassing 6-2 loss to the Sabres, but the Oilers bounce back, winning their next 5 games, punctuated by a massive 4-1 win over the defending President's Trophy winning Capitals. 7-1 through their first 8 ties the best start in franchise history with the 83-84 Cup champions, the 84-85 Cup champions, and the 85-86 team with 215-point Wayne Gretzky. They're cooking. They're actually good.
Kassian with a shot, he scores!
They lose 8 of their next 10. The offense dries up as the Oilers score only 2 goals per game and the goaltending isn't good enough to save them. McLellan is sticking with Talbot through it all because he does not trust Gustafsson in the least. The Oilers now sit at 9-8-1, a disappointing position to be in after such a molten start. But they snap out of it with 3 dominant wins against the Stars, Blackhawks, and Avalanche.
Scores! Power play goal. Oilers lead 2-0.
They lose another 3, including back-to-back losses to the Coyotes, who have not improved much since the McDavid tankathon 2 years ago. But then 2 wins, followed by 4 more losses, sinking the team below 500 for the first time this season at 14-11-5. That 4-game losing streak included a meltdown against a so-so Flyers team where the Oilers blew a 5-3 third-period lead. The game in Philadelphia was also the reunion of McDavid and Brandon Manning, who apparently admitted to intentionally injuring the Star Center last season, which Manning publicly denied. In the AP write-up, McDavid called the admission one of the most classless things he'd ever seen on the ice. McDavid was particularly incensed because he had gone to bat for Manning when the injury happened, making it clear that he thought it wasn't intentional. Tensions are heightened to say the least. The Oilers amble through another 13 games, winning 7, which keeps them right on the playoff fringe at 21-15-7, helped by their overtime losses and the fact that the Western Conference kinda sucks. The Oilers finally find their game again, for real this time, with 7 wins and an overtime loss in their next 8. McLellan has gone all in on the top line, moving Leon to McDavid's wing with Maroon opposite him. It has worked tremendously well, with McDavid and Draisaitl controlling play, while Maroon parks his massive frame in front of the net and rakes in the goals. Importantly, Talbot has locked in, posting a .950 save percentage through his 7 starts in this span. This stretch takes the Oilers from a bubble team up into the conference's upper echelon with the Wild, Sharks, Blackhawks, and Ducks. They aren't as good in the next 12 games leading up to the trade deadline, going 5-7, but they've banked enough points now that they have a layer of security. While they've fallen well behind the Wild, Sharks, and Hawks at the top, they've carved out a secure middle tier with the Predators and Ducks. The Oilers are finally in a position to buy at the trade deadline. What's unfortunate is that the market is mediocre. The big targets are offensive defenseman Kevin Shattenkirk and, seriously, Martin Hanzal? More in the Oilers' price range are guys like Alex Burrows, Brian Boyle, or Thomas Vanek. There are also some talks of a new backup or 1B to join Talbot, with someone like Ben Bishop or the less expensive Michael Neuwirth being rental possibilities. The Oilers make only one move of note, trading 25-year-old defenseman Brandon Davidson to Montreal for the talented but diminutive David Desharnais. Davidson has been eclipsed on the bottom pairing by rookie Matt Benning and was in line to lose his job to Darnell Nurse as the latter returned from ankle surgery. Trading him makes a lot of sense. Desharnais is having a pretty bad year, marred by some injuries, but he's not too far removed from being an effective player. He's also a center, which should help the depth and allow Draisaitl to stay on the wing as opposed to burying him or Nuge on the third line. Desharnais being the only add is disappointing. That can't be denied. But at least they didn't give up a first and a second for Martin Hanzal.
So, know the player well. His year hasn't been great. He started off with an injury. He's been in and out of the lineup, but strong two-way player and strong on the puck for his size, protects the puck.
They also didn't really fall behind in the arms race, with only the Ducks, Wild, and floundering Kings adding anyone of significance. At his post-deadline press conference, Chiarelli gives Talbot and his re-established backup Laurent Brossoit a vote of confidence. For better or worse, this is the group.
We decided we're going to go with the goalies that we have, because we wanted to give these guys a chance, the guys that got us here, and that includes LB.
The Oilers win 2, then lose 3 following the Desharnais trade, then decide they're done with losing. They lose just 2 of their last 14 games. Talbot is a rock, but this streak is due to 2 guys, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Draisaitl scores 6 goals with 21 points, while McDavid scores 7 goals with 25 points, reaching 100 on the season, the only player in the league to do so. They're unstoppable. Most importantly, they've clinched the playoffs. Only one team is hotter than the Oilers, their division rival, the Anaheim Ducks, who sniped the division title with 105 points over the Oilers' 103. The Ducks get the comparably easy round 1 matchup against the happy-to-be-here Flames, while the Oilers will host the defending Western Conference champions, the San Jose Sharks. Despite having an almost identical roster to the 2016 team, the 2017 Sharks have a very different DNA. Compared to his point-per-game production last season, veteran star Joe Thornton has taken a step back. While he and longtime teammate Patrick Marleau remain valuable contributors, a lot more of the offensive weight has fallen on the shoulders of Joe Pavelski and Logan Couture. Between age, the stalling development of young guys, the massive flop that their big free agent signing Mikkel Bodker has been, and an injury that cut out 2 months in the middle of young star Tomas Hertl's season, the Sharks have fallen from 4th in goals last season to 19th this season. However, San Jose has found a way to compensate. Their defense is tremendous. Their top pairing gets a lot of attention. Brent Burns is in the midst of a Norris Trophy campaign and is tied for the Sharks' leading goals with 29. Opposite him is the perfect complement in the steady and unexciting Paul Martin.
Shoot a jumbo!
Jumping down to the depth, David Schlemko, Brendan Dillon, and Dylan DeMello, if he's needed, are all well above average performers for their role. What the Oilers need to be worried about more than anything with this Sharks team is their second pair, Justin Braun and Marc-Edouard Vlasic. They aren't flashy, they don't drive really any offense, but these two are among the very best shutdown defensemen in the league, and for a team that has been riding their top line as hard as the Oilers have, that could be a problem. Put this defense in front of proven playoff performer Martin Jones, and the Sharks look like a bad draw for this young Oilers squad. Rogers Place is set to host its first playoff action for Game 1. The Oilers roar out of the gate on the back of Milan Lucic, who shocks everyone as he pushes transition on a Clefbaum goal, and no one when he rips one home on the power play. The Sharks strike back in the second on a spinning pass from Jonas Donskoy to veteran net front presence Joel Ward. The Sharks gain control of the game completely and control over 75% of the expected goals, but it's the Cam Talbot show until Paul Martin, of all people, jumps down below the circles and slams a rebound past the Oilers' netminder. The Sharks continue to circle the bleeding Oilers, bombarding Talbot, but he holds strong, pushing the game to overtime. Despite the tie, the Oilers look toast, and sure enough, Melker Karlsson lasers a shot past Talbot. Not the best goal to give up, but how can you blame a guy whose team was outshot 44-19? Just like was feared, Vlasic and Braun clamped the McDavid line, with Connor managing just 2 shots while Draisaitl and Maroon had none. The rest of the Oilers fared even worse. This could be ugly. As dominant as the Sharks were in Game 1, the Oilers are more dominant in Game 2, controlling 84% of the expected goals. Martin Jones holds for as long as he can, but Zach Kassian and Connor McDavid's shorthanded goals make the difference as Talbot shuts the door on the Sharks' few opportunities.
McDavid shoots! Scores! Connor McDavid with his first...
McDavid and Draisaitl get away from Vlasic and Braun, and the other Sharks defensemen can't keep up. Frankly, even against the Sharks' shutdown pair, the Oilers' puck movement is far improved. Subbing out Eric Gryba for Matt Benning, as bland as it seems, does help a ton too in terms of puck possession. Game 3 is finally even in terms of chances, but it's a goalie duel. The Oilers split up McDavid and Draisaitl in the second for some added depth. McDavid keeps Maroon and adds Anton Slepyshev, while Leon picks up Zach Kassian and Drake Caggiula. It's Kassian who picks a pass out of the air and breaks the tie with a backhand shot under Jones. It's just the 5th goal Jones has given up, and coincidentally, is the 5th goal through his 5-hole. Talbot doesn't falter, as he's now been flawless for 120 straight minutes since Game 1's overtime winner. The shutout streak ends at 120 minutes and 15 seconds when Joe Pavelski tips home a Justin Braun shot to give the Sharks an immediate lead. Things don't get any better. The Sharks light up the Oilers for 7 goals. The previously impervious Talbot is sent to the bench after number 5, while Martin Jones dazzles at the other end. It's the Cam Talbot experience. Spectacular 1 minute, a sieve the next. It's a 3-game series now. Back in Edmonton for Game 5, and McDavid and Draisaitl are reunited. The Oilers take an early lead as Pat Maroon nets his first of the playoffs, but more Talbot struggles sink them, giving the Sharks a 3-1 lead. The tide starts to turn when McDavid obliterates Marcus Sorensen with an open ice hit, and the Oilers take command. Letestu shows why he's on the top power play to halve the deficit. As time is running out in the third, it's Oscar Klefbom who blasts home the tying goal to send the game to overtime.
All the way around, hands it off, they score! Oscar Klefbom has tied the...
You can talk on and on about McDavid and Draisaitl carrying this team, but without Klefbom anchoring the blue line, this team is nowhere near as good. And while it's easy to pan the Hall trade, for good reason, Adam Larsson is a perfect partner for Klefbom. Overtime is all Oilers, but it's an unlikely hero who ends it.
Down low, here's Desharnais, scores!
As the series heads back to San Jose, the Oilers have a chance to close it out. Talbot is back, revived from 2 tough games to shut down the Sharks' offense. Draisaitl breaks the tie early in the second on a breakaway, and Anton Slepyshev adds to the lead in the same way. It's all Talbot from here out. He and the Oilers' D that is without Klefbom, who is absent for the second half of the game, stymie the Sharks until Logan Couture finds Patrick Marleau, finally breaking up the shutout. A few minutes later, Pavelski rings a beautiful backhander off the crossbar and post. The Sharks' best chance before McDavid ices the game with an empty netter in the final second. The Oilers won. They look good. They're playing harder than any Oiler team has in a decade. This team really has a chance, but their next opponent has been waiting for them. The Anaheim Ducks handily dispatched the Flames and their desperately missing Ken Hitchcock goalie, Brian Elliott. Everything the Sharks were good at, the Ducks are better. Their key forwards, Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and Ryan Kessler, aren't at the peak of their powers, but they're still great contributors, with the two Ryans in particular being tremendous defensive players. The secondary scoring is terrific too, with two 30-goal scorers in Rickard Rakell and deadline pickup Patrick Eaves, and a 20-goal two-way menace in Jakob Silfverberg. Like the Sharks, the Ducks really shine on defense. Their top pairing of Cam Fowler and Sami Vatanen have been terrific on both sides of the puck. Fowler missed the entire series against Calgary, while Vatanen played only half a game. The Ducks didn't miss a beat. Fowler is expected to be dressed for Game 1 against Edmonton, with Vatanen soon to follow. The second pair of Hampus Lindholm and Josh Manson rose to the occasion against the Flames, and that should be surprising to no one, as they were the second best pairing in the league by expected goals percentage, behind only Ryan Suter and Jared Spurgeon. The bottom pair has solidified as young defensemen Shea Theodore and Brandon Montour. Reliable veteran Kevin Bieksa is mixed in too as the top D-man heel. All of this is in front of 23-year-old star goalie John Gibson in net. It's a daunting matchup for the Oilers, to say the least. The goalies both hold strong throughout the first period of Game 1 at the Honda Center in Anaheim, but Ryan Getzlaf opens the scoring early in the second with a laser past Talbot. The Oilers strike back as a 5-on-3 power play turns into a 5-on-2 when Ryan Getzlaf's stick blows up on him. The backdoor mercenary Mark Letestu strikes again on a third-period power play before Adam Larsson takes advantage of a bad Ducks change and walks right down Main Street to strengthen the lead. All the Oilers have to do now is hold on against a team now down to 5 defensemen as Kevin Bieksa heads for the dressing room. But the Ducks are relentless. They've controlled play throughout the game and finally break through with quick goals from Eaves and Silfverberg. The Oilers are all but cooked, but of all people, it's Adam Larsson with his second of the game banking a puck off Hampus Lindholm's foot while Taylor Hall watches on from his couch, presumably as confused as we are. The Oilers hold on and Draisaitl ices the game with an empty netter, handing Anaheim their first regulation loss in 18 games dating back to mid-March. The Ducks are clearly the better team, but the Oilers have some magic about them. The Oilers score first again in Game 2 on what seems like a nothing shot from Andrej Sekera. Anaheim dominates play once again, but they can't beat Talbot, who is outstanding, making the Ducks' hill to climb seem insurmountable when their cast-off Pat Maroon gives the Oilers a 2-0 lead. Outside of a perfect shot from Silfverberg on the power play, the Oilers' goalie is flawless, making 39 saves en route to another stolen Edmonton victory. The Oilers couldn't have hoped to be in a better position, up 2-0, heading back to Rogers Place with Leon fully establishing himself as a center, granting the team some desperately needed depth. Crucially, the Ducks get a big addition as Sami Vatanen is ready to go for Game 3. Let me be clear, he is not healthy. He has a torn labrum in his shoulder and will get surgery in the offseason. But Anaheim is desperate to get Corbini and Holzer out of the lineup and a more proven, albeit one-armed, NHLer in. He is not the only lame duck. It isn't known to the media yet, but Hampus Lindholm has a torn labrum in his shoulder too, and Ryan Kesler desperately needs hip surgery that will essentially end his career. The Oilers have, knock on wood, been the embodiment of health, with Draisaitl, Eberle, Klefbom, Lucic, McDavid, and Nugent-Hopkins all playing 82 regular season games, while Cam Talbot started an Oilers record 73 contests. Even Klefbom's injury against the Sharks had proved to not be anything serious, as he was ready to go for Game 1 against Anaheim. The Ducks have given them an opening. The Oilers have to strike now. It's all Ducks early, leaping out to a 3-0 lead before the Oilers can catch their breath. But the Oilers have their magic. Freakishly good bounces bring them within 1, and their freakishly good top center ties it.
McDavid stops up. What a move! Shoots! Scores!
Then, the Cam Talbot experience as he gives up a howler to Chris Wagner just seconds later. The Ducks weather some Oiler chances, but goals from Jakob Silfverberg, again, and Ryan Kesler solidify a Game 3 victory for Anaheim. The Oilers are a house of fire early in Game 4, and John Gibson can only hold them off for so long before Lucic and McDavid give the Oilers a 2-0 lead. The second period belongs to Ryan Getzlaf, who scores with some borderline goaltender interference from Perry, then feeds Rickard Rakell to tie the game, then slaps the puck away from Nuge and into the net to give the Ducks the lead and silence the crowd. The Oilers keep pushing, starting to win the possession battle before finally being forced to pull their goalie. With an odd mismatch of players on the ice, the Oilers take their last gasp.
Penalty's over. Gibson makes a save. They score! Drake Caggiula!
In overtime, the Oilers gain possession quickly, but Ryan Getzlaf blocks a shot and play drives down into the Oilers' zone for the final time.
To Larsson, Getzlaf intercepted. They score!
4-point night for the Ducks captain, and for the second time in these playoffs, the Oilers are tied at 2 going into Game 5. Things look grim when the Oilers give up a penalty shot to Getzlaf midway through the first, but luckily he skies it over the net. The game remains scoreless until the second when Leon fires a rebound toward the Ducks net that Gibson nearly makes a terrific save on, but it just bleeds through to give Edmonton the lead. The Oilers' top-notch power play extends the lead on a batted puck by McDavid. At the halfway point of the second, it looks like Anaheim's Nick Ritchie tied the game, but the goal comes back as the Ducks pugilist hit the puck with a high stick. Not to squander the disallowed goal, the Oilers take a commanding 3-0 lead on another goal from Caggiula, and they've done this all with 5D, losing Sekera early in the first. With just over 3 minutes left, the Oilers have the game all sewn up as the Ducks pull Gibson. Who else but Getzlaf blasts 2 shots off Draisaitl, with the second finding its way past Talbot to give his team some life. With the entire population of Orange County parked in front of the Oilers' goal, Talbot never sees Cam Fowler's shot that makes it 3-2. The mass of humanity collapses on Talbot again, this time literally, with just 15 seconds left. In the chaos, the puck meanders out to Rakell, who puts a no-look backhand toward the net and right under the sprawling Talbot. Surely this will get called back. Kessler was literally laying on Talbot. I think this was goaltender interference. I also think you shouldn't blow a 3-goal lead with the opponent's goalie pulled. I call it even. Overtime is a battle of attrition running into its second frame. Getzlaf, Perry, game. With their season on the line to replace the injured Sekera, the Oilers slot in Griffin Reinhart. Are you serious? He didn't play a single game in the regular season. You suddenly trust him now? Where's Greiba or Fane? They aren't good, but I'm much more willing to put them in there for 15 minutes. Jordan Osterley was better than Reinhart in Bakersfield. Why not him? Griffin Reinhart.
If you can hear us, please.
Griffin Reinhart.
Please save me. Please save me.
Griffin Reinhart.
Please.
Game 6 is a bad night to be a Ducks goalie as the Oilers dust Anaheim, chasing John Gibson with 3 quick goals in the first before adding 4 more. Former Oiler Andrew Cogliano tries to stop the bleeding after goal number 4, fighting Caggiula, but it's to no avail. Draisaitl is unstoppable, picking up a hat trick and 5 points in the Oilers' 7-1 victory. All done without a point for McDavid. For a blowout, Talbot had to be solid, making 34 saves on 35 shots. Game 7 in Anaheim. Loser goes home. Unimpressed by Reinhart in Game 6, the Oilers draw Greiba back in for Game 7. The Oilers, as they have the last 3 games, score first against the Ducks when burgeoning folk hero Drake Caggiula forces a Shea Theodore turnover and scores. The Ducks own the chances in the game, but Talbot is a wall. Anaheim finally takes advantage of the Oilers' bottom pairing of Greiba and Nurse, who can't clear the puck before Cogliano comes barreling toward the net and knocks it home. I would say the game has turned into a goalie duel, but it's more aptly Talbot against the world. Nick Ritchie, who has slid up to the Ducks' top line, is the man to break the tie, giving his team a 2-1 lead early in the third. The Oilers even out the chances, but Gibson makes a few terrific saves to preserve the Ducks' lead. Time ticks down to the final 5 seconds, but McDavid has the puck on his stick.
McDavid, Draisaitl, cleared away. It's a Duck win.
The Oilers' darkness-dispelling run is over, ended by a team that was just better than them, but one they gave a hell of a fight. As of writing, beating the Oilers was Anaheim's last playoff series win as they've entered their own half-decade of darkness. Oh. Hey, Dallas. I'd love to live in a world where Milan Lucic's contract didn't age like milk, where Andrei Sekera's career wasn't decimated by the torn ACL he suffered in Game 5 against the Ducks. A world where Cam Talbot solidified the crease for years to come, Jesse Puljujärvi turned into a superstar, and Oscar Klefbom's career wasn't stolen by injury at just 26. A world where Connor and Leon got their cup. But that isn't this world. At least not yet. In our world, the Oilers have suffered plenty since the end of the Decade of Darkness, but they've seen some pretty amazing moments too. Our world has seen McDavid win 5 scoring titles, 3 MVPs, and a 64-goal Rocket Richard just to put icing on his case as the best player in the world. It's seen Draisaitl win a scoring title and MVP of his own, while hitting the 50-goal plateau 3 times and 100 points 4. It's even seen Ryan Nugent-Hopkins eclipse 100 points. It won't make Oilers fans as happy to hear, but things worked out for a lot of the cast-offs too. Dustin Penner won a cup with LA. Matt Green and Jarrett Stoll won 2. Justin Schultz won back-to-back cups with the Penguins, including a 2017 championship they don't win without him. David Perron won a cup with the Blues. Taylor Hall won league MVP. While the Oilers still haven't won their cup, they creep closer and closer every season. I don't know when their year will be. All I know is that it's soon. Either that or 20 years from now I'll be making a documentary about an even darker decade. Only time will tell.
Below average, 76%, 25th in the league. McDavid, Nugent-Hopkins crosses, Draisaitl, McDavid, Draisaitl, one-timer score!